Have you ever imagined standing at the altar on your wedding day, only to find out you have 3 children you never even knew existed? Today's story will shatter everything you expect from a simple love and revenge tale. Ethan Carter thought he had it all, a booming empire, a stunning fiancée, a perfect future lined up. But when an unexpected guest crashes his wedding with 3 little boys who look just like him, his world spirals into chaos. Was it a cruel trick, a hidden betrayal, or the greatest second chance life could ever offer? Stay with us because what begins as a cold-hearted plan for revenge turns into one of the most heart-shaking, emotional twists you'll ever witness. And trust me, by the end, you'll see why sometimes the real victory isn't about winning. It's about love, redemption, and the family you never knew you needed. Ready? Let's dive in. The billionaire's invitation that would change everything. The coffee on Ethan Carter's mahogany desk had long gone cold forgotten as he stood by the towering windows of Carter Tech's Boston headquarters, staring at the glittering skyline below. From the outside, Ethan looked invincible, 35 years old, CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech empire, and soon to marry Madison Turner, a stunning supermodel who was the face of half the luxury brands in America. But deep inside, a storm was brewing. One phone call today would set off a chain of events so explosive, so unexpected, that Ethan's carefully built world would never be the same. He tapped his fingers anxiously against the window pane, the reflection of the city warping across the glass. In just a few hours, he would make a move he had planned for months, a move of revenge wrapped up in a golden envelope. With a deep breath, Ethan hit the call button. "St. Jude's Children's Hospital, how may I direct your call?" said the bright voice on the other end. "I'd like to speak with Dr. Emily Brooks, please." Ethan said, his voice cool, hiding the adrenaline surging through him. There was a brief pause. "One moment, sir." He turned back to face the city, remembering how it had all started with a scrappy college startup, nights of coding in basements, and one girl who believed in him when nobody else did, Emily Brooks. And she was the only person who had dared to leave him. "Hello." A soft voice echoed through the line, freezing Ethan in place. It was her, the voice he hadn't heard in 6 long years. "Emily, it's Ethan," he said, forcing a casual tone. Silence long enough to stretch painfully across the miles. "Well, this is a surprise," she finally said, guarded but unmistakably curious. 6 years. That's a long time. 6 years, 2 months, and 17 days. Ethan answered before he could stop himself. Damn too much. From his reflection, he caught a glimpse of himself. Perfect Italian suit designer, shoes a man who had conquered the world, and yet his eyes told another story. Vulnerable, haunted. "Why are you calling, Ethan?" Emily asked, her voice steady. No trace of emotion. Ethan swallowed hard. "I'm getting married," he said. "I wanted to invite you personally." If there was shock on her end, she masked it well. "You're inviting me to your wedding?" she asked, disbelief dripping from every word. "Yes," he said, holding the golden envelope in his hand, thumb brushing over her name embossed in gold letters. "You were important to me. I thought it would be right for you to see what I've built." A half-truth. In reality, it was the final move in a silent war he had waged ever since she had left him. He wanted her to see it all, the power, the wealth, the perfect life she could have had. "I'm surprised," Emily said, hesitating. "But thank you, I'll try to attend." Ethan let a small smile curve his lips. "You'll receive the official invitation tomorrow." They exchanged polite goodbyes, but as he hung up, Ethan felt a chill run down his spine, a strange feeling he couldn't shake. Something about her tone. It wasn't bitterness or envy he heard. It was something else. Something that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. As he slipped the envelope into the outgoing mail tray, his assistant Lauren Parker appeared at the door. "Mr. Carter, the board meeting starts in 5 minutes." "I'll be right there," Ethan said, straightening his jacket. He had no idea that at that very moment Emily Brooks was sitting frozen at her desk at St. Jude's, staring at a framed photograph of 3 identical 5-year-old boys, each one with deep brown eyes identical to his. Her hands trembled as she reached out and traced their faces. Mason, Dylan, Caleb, her sons, Ethan's sons. And he didn't know a thing. The decision she made in the next few hours would upend everything Ethan thought he controlled, because Emily wasn't planning to come alone. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. If you found out you had 3 children you never knew about, would you want to meet them immediately or would you hesitate? Do you think Ethan truly invited Emily out of nostalgia, or was it just pure revenge? Tell me what you think in the comments. And by the way, what country are you watching from? Drop your flag in the comments. If you're loving this story, smash 100 in the comments to let us know you want more. The secret she carried to his wedding. Emily Brooks stood frozen in her tiny office, the invitation from Ethan Carter still burning in her hand. The golden envelope glimmered in the afternoon light, a cruel reminder of the life she could have had, and the devastating secret she had carried alone for 6 years. Her heart raced as she turned toward the framed photos on her bookshelf. 3 boys identical in their mischievous grins stared back at her. Mason, Dylan, Caleb. 3 little souls Ethan didn't even know existed. She brushed a tear from her cheek. She had tried. God knew she had tried. After the boys were born, she had sent emails, letters, even showed up once at Carter Tech's headquarters. But every time the gatekeepers had shut her out. A stern, polished woman named Sophia Grant had responded coldly, warning her that Ethan had moved on, and any claim of paternity would only jeopardize the company's future. After that brutal rejection, Emily had promised herself one thing: she would never beg again. And now here he was inviting her to his wedding, smug, arrogant, clueless. Emily's fists clenched at her sides. If Ethan wanted her to see the perfect life he had built, fine, she would show him the perfect lives he had unknowingly created and the cracks he had no idea existed under his glittering empire. At that moment, her phone buzzed. A text from her mother: "Mom, can I pick up the boys at 4 p.m.? Promise them a trip to the park." Emily smiled through her turmoil. Her mother had been her rock through everything. Emily: "Yes, thanks, Mom. Love you." She slipped the golden invitation into her desk drawer and locked it. The decision was made. She would go to Ethan Carter's wedding, but she wouldn't be alone. 2 weeks later, the Grand Carter estate outside Boston buzzed with preparations. The wedding of the year, the tabloids called it, a dazzling supermodel bride, a tech billionaire groom, and a guest list straight out of Hollywood helicopters circled overhead. News vans camped outside the iron gates. Curious locals leaned over fences, desperate for a glimpse of the spectacle. Ethan stood at the edge of the vast garden, supervising the final touches on the decorations. He wore a custom Armani suit. He looked like the picture of success, and yet he couldn't shake the gnawing anxiety clawing at his chest. Where was Emily? Had she accepted the invitation? Would she even show up? Sir Lauren Parker, his assistant, interrupted his thoughts, holding out a clipboard. Seating chart updates. Dr. Emily Brooks confirmed attendance. Plus 3 guests. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. 3 guests. Who the hell was she bringing? A boyfriend. A husband, reinforcements to rub salt in old wounds. Did she specify who her guests are? Ethan asked, feigning indifference. Lauren shook her head. Just said they require front row seating. Front row, that wasn't part of the plan. He wanted Emily tucked quietly in the crowd, watching his perfect life unfold from a distance. Not sitting front and center like some honored guest. Something didn't feel right. Ethan forced a smile and waved Lauren away. Handle it, I'll deal with it later. But as he turned back toward the grand estate, a sliver of doubt lodged itself deep inside him. Emily Brooks was many things: brilliant, stubborn, fiercely proud. But she wasn't petty. Why was she suddenly playing by his rules? Or worse, had she come to break them? Meanwhile, just a few miles away, Emily helped Mason, Dylan, and Caleb into their brand new suits. Mom, this tie is choking me. Dylan whined, tugging at his little blue bow tie. Just a little longer, baby, Emily said, kneeling to adjust it. Today's a big day. Are we really going to a wedding? Asked Mason, ever the serious one. Yes, Emily said, smoothing his hair. And you're going to meet someone very important. Caleb tugged at her sleeve, his big brown eyes full of worry. Is he nice? Emily's throat tightened. How do you explain to a 5-year-old that the man he's about to meet is the father he never knew existed? "I think he just doesn't know yet how wonderful you are," she said softly, kissing his forehead. "But he will, I promise." As they piled into her old Subaru, Emily caught her reflection in the rearview mirror. Steady, calm, ready. This wasn't revenge. This was justice for her, for them. She started the engine, heading toward the Carter estate, toward the storm that neither she nor Ethan could avoid any longer. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. If you were in Emily's shoes, would you reveal the truth at the wedding or keep it secret forever? Drop your thoughts below. And tell us, what country are you watching from? Comment your flag. If you're loving this emotional roller coaster, smash 100 in the comments so we know to keep the stories coming. The day his world changed forever. The ceremony was moments away. The grand garden of the Carter estate gleamed under the golden afternoon sun. White roses arched above the altar. Violins played softly and hundreds of guests murmured with excitement. But Ethan Carter stood rigid at the front, barely hearing the music. His eyes searched the crowd, heart pounding. And then he saw her, Emily Brooks, and 3 small boys in matching suits clinging shyly to her hands. The air left Ethan's lungs. He knew in an instant, he knew those weren't her nephews. They weren't family friends. They were his. 3 tiny mirrors of himself. The same brown eyes, the same stubborn chin, the same fire in their little expressions. His legs nearly buckled. "Sir," whispered the officiant, "are you ready?" But Ethan couldn't move. His whole life, the business, the empire. The perfect image blurred into meaninglessness in the face of what stood before him. His children. Across the aisle, Sophia Grant, his former mentor and the woman who had once controlled every detail of his life, watched, her face tight with panic. She knew the moment she saw Emily that her carefully laid schemes were crumbling. Emily caught Sophia's stare, and for the first time in years smiled. Not out of triumph, but peace. This moment wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. Holding Mason Dillon and Caleb close, Emily guided them down the aisle, not toward the altar, but toward Ethan. The guests turned in confusion, whispers breaking out. Who were these children? Why was the bride's face draining of color? Isabella, Ethan's fiancée, stood frozen at the altar, her glittering gown suddenly feeling like chains. "Ethan," she whispered, "what's happening?" But Ethan couldn't answer. He took a staggering step forward as Emily reached him, the boys hiding behind her legs. "They deserve to know you," Emily said, her voice steady but trembling. "And you deserve to know them, even if it's too late for us." Ethan dropped to one knee, his hands shaking. "Hi," he said softly to the boys. "I'm Ethan. I think I'm your dad." The boys looked up at him, eyes wide. Mason, the eldest by 2 minutes, took a cautious step forward. "Are you really our dad?" he asked, suspicion and hope battling in his voice. Ethan's heart broke. "If you'll let me be," he whispered. Without a word, Mason threw his arms around Ethan's neck. Dylan and Caleb followed, their small bodies colliding into him with the force of 1,000 missed birthdays. Ethan held them tightly, his suit wrinkling, tears streaming freely down his face. Nothing else mattered. Not the stares, not the whispers, not even the wedding collapsing behind him. Isabella turned on her heel and stormed away, her designer heels clacking against the stone path. The crowd parting silently for her. No one cared. All eyes were on the real story unfolding. A father meeting his sons. For the first time, later that evening, the grand ballroom meant for a lavish reception sat empty. Instead, Ethan, Emily, and the boys sat at a quiet picnic table in the garden, sharing pizza out of cardboard boxes. Mason showed Ethan a rock collection he'd brought in his pocket. Dylan proudly explained the names of every dinosaur he knew, and Caleb, shy but brave, asked if Ethan would teach him to play piano someday. "I'll teach you anything you want," Ethan promised, voice thick with emotion. "If you'll let me." Emily watched, her heart aching and healing all at once. This wasn't the life she had imagined. It was messier, rawer, and infinitely more beautiful. Ethan looked across the table at her, a soft smile playing on his lips. "I don't deserve a second chance," he said quietly, "but I'm going to fight for it, for them and for you, if you'll let me." Emily wiped a tear away, smiling back. Start with them, she said. We'll see about the rest. Well, under the glow of string lights surrounded by empty champagne glasses and forgotten table settings, a broken family began to heal. Not through grand gestures or perfect plans, but through simple, honest love, the kind they had all been waiting for. What would you have done if you were Emily? Would you forgive Ethan or walk away forever? Drop your answer in the comments below. If you love this emotional story, smash 100 in the comments to let us know. Also, tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from every corner of the world. Don't forget to share this story with someone who believes in second chances. You might just make their day.